And something was missing though. It was joy again, I was loving it, but I didn't have a team to do it with because I was sort of separate from this team now because they were doing their thing and I was on my kind of mission to change the sport. And I realized I couldn't change it from the outside by just going anti-doping conferences, by talking to journalists. If I was going to change it, I was going to have to do it myself. And there was an American called Jonathan Waters who had a small junior team in the States. And he'd approached me a few months before and said, look, I've got the money, we're going to start a team. I'd like you to be the leader, and we're going to make this an anti-doping team, like the clean team. And it was just this perfect bit of serendipity. We, at the time, did something that nobody had done before. We came in and said, we're going to create a clean team. We're going to do something where we recruited riders, and here's what was a bit mind-blowing. Some of the riders we knew had taken drugs in the past, like me, hadn't even come out. Jonathan Waters had. He's an ex-bike rider, but we were guys that wanted to make a difference. And we started this little team which was a little bit laughed at the beginning. We didn't even have automatic entry to the Tour de France or other things. We were a little quirky team. We looked like a bunch of misfits. I mean, there's two guys here with handlebar moustaches, for God's sake. I think Mavericks is because we were misfits. But we had a vision that was kind of something that nobody had ever done before. We were a band of brothers that were out to prove what was possible. We recruited guys, we chose our objectives that were good. We realized that if there was something we were going to do, we knew people were still doping, but if we were going to do it without drugs, we were going to give ourselves every single advantage possible. We got a great bike sponsor, we chose the riders for an event that we wanted to dominate, which is the team time trial, which I spoke about before, because we figured that was one event that you could probably dominate in because you didn't need to have one guy on drugs, you needed the whole team to be solid together, and you could beat teams that had guys on drugs, because as a collective, we'd be stronger than them. We did things that no one had done before. We went back to doing altitude training camps, which hadn't been done in years because obviously some people didn't need to do it. And we used ice vests, we had different training methods, we used saunas after, like all this really weird, wacky stuff that everybody does now. But it worked. And we started winning stuff, and winning started meaning something again. We won the podium, we were winning as a team. We weren't doing it as individuals anymore. We were doing it as a group, and we were sharing in something that was really quite special, which I'd never had before. At this point, I was 31, 32, and unbelievably, I'd never been on a podium and shared a winning result with anybody. And I started doing this with Slipstream, and I started to realize it was something that I should have been doing years before, because it was so much more rewarding than being up there on my own.